Good morning. Man, it is Friday. Thank goodness. It's been a it's been a long week. But man, I've got my favorite things. Got my Texas Tech hat, Shelby Mustang shirt, and if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see me. But I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to start doing video and audio together because I've targeted my younger audience, my younger entrepreneurs, which I may change that up some because it really applies to all entrepreneurs. I like to help young people. But I call it the Stacking Cheese podcast and call myself the Big Cheese. But, you know, it's all comedic, and I explained it in a previous episode, but stacking cheese is just an old term we've always kind of used around our office and with people in the office. It's like, hey, what's up? What you doing? Nothing, just stacking cheese, making money, working, building whatever. That's why I picked up that term. I thought it was funny anyway. If you don't like it, okay. Man, but it is Friday, thank goodness. And it's the Friday before Thanksgiving. So that's my favorite holiday. I love Thanksgiving because it comes with all the family and all the friends and things like that without the stress of the gift giving and buying. At least that's the way it is for me. And you young people out there, don't stress yourself too much about that stuff. Give a kind gift. A gift of your time is more important than anything. My son asked me, he's 21, or he'll be 21 in 2 days. And he's like, what do you want for Christmas, Dad? He always gets me something really thoughtful. Like he got me this kind of like a whiskey tumbler, I guess it is, a small whiskey glass with a cigar, an indentation for cigar holders. Because I have been known to partake of a cigar from time to time. But, he always gets me something. And I'm like, man, this year, don't get me anything. Just show up. Come spend a day with me. Or let's go fishing. Or let's go do something together. Go to a movie. That would be way more important than any gift. So you young people out there, remember that. But I thought I'd keep it light today on the topic, the misconceptions that people have about business owners. And if you're hearing this, listening to this, thinking, hey, I'm going to go into business and, make all this money, and that it's possible, but it's not going to be nearly as glamorous as you think. And you can see that just in the YouTube world. Heck, I'm seeing it just starting off. You get no traction, no views. But again, the reason I'm doing this, I already have my living. I already have a way to make my money. It's been over the past 30 years, but I'm doing this now just because I enjoy it. I want to try to get better at it, get better camera, get better gear, and help people in the process. That's really why I like to do this. I just feel like people ask me stuff all the time. When they find out what I do, the questions come. So I thought, why not just publicly broadcast it? Be done with it, When they ask me things, say, hey, give the answer, but then here's my YouTube channel. Go check it out. Get bored. Maybe not get bored. But I want to keep it light. I don't feel like going through all of this tax law and, the weight sometimes of me preaching. You need to do this and you need to do that. I thought I would just share my past, my history with business, and what other people have done, friends with business, and some of the stories, and the misconceptions, really. And the first one is, hey, man, when you own your own business, you can work whenever you want. That you're going to realize is there's some truth to that, but I guess you're going to work longer than you think. When I first started, I bought an accounting firm. I went to work for this accounting firm first, then I bought the firm. The previous owner was ready to retire. I bought the firm. And the way he was doing things was legacy, let's just call it. He was meeting with almost every single tax client, and it was stressful. I had 3, 4 other accountants slash CPAs working for me, and I would get to work as early as I could. They would set my appointments because all these clients were used to, and this will apply to not just CPAs, but any sort of service-based business. All those clients were used to the way it was done. I come in, I bring you my stuff, we sit down and talk about it. Sometimes you do it while I wait, sometimes you don't. And I'm thinking, man, this is not the way to go. After the first year of that, I remember going home. I had to have neighbors and friends walk my dog because I was working so many hours. I remember going home one night, and this was after I do my work. I review all the work of every professional in the office before I sign anything. And then, by the time you do that, it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I remember going home, walking my dog, hearing roosters crowing in the background, even though it was in a city, I could hear it, some people, kind of a mix, city and rural. You had city nearby, but people with larger land, and they had chickens, I guess. But I remember thinking, man, I've got a 9 a.m. appointment, and it's had to be 4:30 in the morning-ish. And I'm walking my dog out in the middle of the night. Had the police called on me because I was doing laundry. I lived in an apartment at the time when I first bought the business, and I had the cops called on me. What was I supposed to do? I'm out. I'm trying to get to work. I'm trying to do my laundry. And, that was frustrating. Then I would have my alarm. I'd have to set it as loud as it would go because I had to get up and get to the office for my 9 a.m. appointments. I did that, and it went on like that for the entire tax season. And that was the tax season my father had passed away. So I was also trying to juggle working 7 days a week and getting to, over to visit my dad. He was in the hospital, and it was rough. That was the hardest year of my life, no doubt, without question, as far as work goes and even emotionally. But, you think, hey, man, I've got my own business now. I'm going to work when I want. Yeah, you can work when you want. You can work all day when you want, so that misconception is not going to happen. When you start your own business, you're going to really figure out that everything falls on you. And you're not going to be waking up at 9:30 a.m. sipping on your latte and deciding if you're going to work 2 hours that day or 2.5. That's not going to be the case. Not if you want to be successful anyway. But that misconception really gets me. And, that with the long lunches, that's not going to happen either. Most of the time you're going to eat lunch doing something else. And that falls into the second misconception. If you're the boss, man, there's no stress, right? No, the stress disappears. You're being your own boss. So sorry if you hear me sipping my coffee. That's just the way it is. But, yeah, you're your own boss, but the stress just magnifies. And, there is, the buck stops here. Have you heard that? The buck stops here at this door. Whoops. That's the case. And depending upon what business you're in, like with me, man, the mistakes, if there were mistakes on tax returns and with financial records and things like that, that's not good. And so it puts me, and I was telling my wife the other day, that's what has molded me into sometimes a hypercritical person. And I don't mean to be that way, but, like in a previous episode, I talked about you're a product of your environment, and that was my environment. My butt was on the line when it came to mistakes. There could be none. So when you spend 30 years finding and looking and correcting mistakes to save your own tail, financially, and it changes who you are. I really have to get away sometimes. Like next week, we're going to go. We have a little cabin in the mountains that we're going to go to, and I'll get to do a lot of hiking and things like that. I'll still work. I don't stop. I bring everything with me, and I don't mind that. Some people do. I don't mind it. When I disengage, it seems like I have more to catch up. But going back to that misconception, you're your own boss. The stress goes away. That's not the case. You're your own boss, but everyone then becomes your boss. Your clients, your relationships, your contacts, your customers, whatever it may be, your employees, because they work for you, yes, but you've got to satisfy those employees, keep them happy, challenge them, all the things that go, not just pay them. That's the bottom. That's the very first step. If you want to retain good help and foster their growth and all that, you have to invest in time in them. So you're not just hiring someone that can do the job. And there are different levels of that. You may hire someone that can do the job and do it very well, maybe better than you. But still, you're invested in that person, and you're going to have to work to keep that person. It's just the way it is. And grow that person. So, you're your own boss. Yeah, you're your own boss, but you're also, everyone else is your boss. And that goes right on down to the employees. But that, I don't really have an anecdotal story about that. It's just, it goes right along with, you can work whenever you want. That's not the case. And the third one is, this is a really good one. You'll make more money. Yeah, right. If you're a creator or something, you'll struggle. You know that going in. You start a YouTube channel, you do whatever it is, artist, you're unknown. But you'll make more money just because people think that. I love this story. People come to me. I'll have, when I first started, and I would write myself a paycheck and stack it in the desk. Write myself a paycheck every week, stack it in the desk. I couldn't afford to cash it. I had to make sure everyone else got paid. And I made no money. Man, I struggled. I would only cash those things enough to pay whatever personal bills I had. There was no room for anything else. And then I went to a friend's who was also a client. And I was out there one day and we were doing something. I was on his computer at his desk and I needed a pen or something. I opened a desk drawer. There's a stack of checks. I said, what in the world, man? He said, can't afford to cash them. So just like me. And he was a retail, let's just say retail establishment. He did car and truck accessories, things like that. But yeah, he couldn't afford to cash his check. So that whole, I'll make all the money. You don't get rich right away. It takes time and you pay your dues, just like we've talked about. And not to mention that, you're putting money back into your business, right? To make it better. So even if you are making money, you're reinvesting it right back into the business. So that whole, you're going to make all kinds of money, give up on that thought right away. I'm not saying it's not going to be lucrative, but I'm saying you will have a period of paying your dues. And that's okay. It builds character, right? And, that goes along with the fourth thing I want to talk about. And it's, you just hire the people. They'll do the work. Oh, you'll find out soon enough that that's not the case. You'll have some really good people and you'll have some really bad people. And it's hard to tell, especially when you just start. It's hard to judge a person's character, their work ethic. You can ask all the right questions, but they've practiced answering with the right answers. You get better with experience and age, I think, at reading people. Um, and some of the best employees I've had turned out not to be the best in the beginning, or they started out at a very low level, and then grew into something. I'll give you an example. I had a lady who worked for me. Her daughter worked for me, and her daughter was just in high school, I believe, at the time. Maybe it was college, but I believe it was high school. And she would come in. No, it was college. Yeah, because she would come in on certain days and then at a certain time. And her daughter would do just minor stuff. Back then it was data entry kind of things. And when her daughter quit, the mom came to work for me. She had no formal education, high school diploma, but no college, no accounting degree, nothing like that. Just a wonderful lady. She was doing the same thing, data entry, copying and processing tax returns, just whatever we needed, binding financial statements, whatever. She worked from that position into one of the best accountants I've ever had. I mean, the best. Because she took the time to learn and read. She listened to what I said, and she built herself into an awesome accountant. She was already an awesome person, most kind, loving person you'll ever see. She was a Christian lady, and she never worked on Sunday. And just going back to that story about my father passing away, I remember, I was worked to the bone, and he died in April 1st, I believe, or 3rd, something like that. And April 15th, the deadline. I was working 7 days a week. I'd get to the hospital when I could and all that stuff. And man, I remember driving by our office, in the funeral procession, going, to the cemetery. And her car was up there. And she was, her faith was the most important thing to her. She never would work on Sunday. I would never ask her to work on Sunday. But you know whose car was up there that Sunday? Because I needed her. Those are the kind of people you need to search for. When you find those people, cherish those relationships. Foster that relationship any way you can. Business is all about building relationships. My father used to tell me, be careful, don't burn that bridge. And he was right. You can burn bridges that will come back to bite you later. So do everything you can to foster the relationships you have, to build better relationships, even bad relationships. I've had clients where we've just gone separate ways, and I get referrals from them. They're at another CPA, and I'm getting referrals. Sometimes you're diverging. You're not on the same path, and it's okay. It's okay to have that conversation. One of the better clients I've ever lost, I called the guy. I said, I had a lot of respect for him. And I said, man, normally when I lose a client I'm kind of happy, because we butted heads or whatever. This one kind of stings. What did I do? And he said, Chris, you didn't do anything. It's just he was in increasingly poor health, and he's since passed. But his wife she didn't know me. She knew another CPA, and they grew up together. That's not as hard. And I'm glad I called rather than, harbor those feelings, those emotions of rejection and believe me, I don't care how long you're in business. When you lose a relationship, a customer, a longtime client, something like that, it stings, and it should sting. But, you have to build from it. And the best thing you can do is salvage what's there. Even if it's a phone call saying, hey, I'm sorry, let me know what I did wrong so I don't make that mistake again. You'll be surprised how people will respect that. And like I said, he was at another CPA, and I was still getting referrals from him. So, that goes a long way. So, just hire the people. They do all the work. That's true. They do a lot of the work, but when you do that, suddenly you're their manager, their coach. You become a referee when you hire people. Believe me, when I had that office full of people, I spent more time dealing with intra-office arguing, fighting, just referee stuff. I mean, I felt like, who's that guy named Dana White, the UFC? Like, okay, let's get it on, and let them have at it. I should have put a boxing ring in there like our old football coach used to do. We'd get into it in the locker room, get out on the mat. We'd have to go in the weight room, get on the mat, start wrestle it out. Just get it out. No fist throwing, none of that. Just wrestle till you're exhausted. By the time you're done. So that's what I should have done, and that's what you may decide to do in your business. But you become a professional explainer of things 12 different times. It's the way it is. And, that whole hire someone, they'll do the work. Yeah. I'm lucky. I have people around me now that are awesome. And I know I'm fortunate. So you do build those relationships and people, but it's not as easy as you think. And number 5, and I know I said I was going to keep it short. It's 21 minutes, guys. You get to do what you love every day. It's true. If you start the right business, but most of what you do is not the thing. Like me and my example, 10 people in my office. I was no longer an accountant, a CPA. For all practical purposes, I was a manager, a CEO, a referee, a bill collector. Oh, man. A banker. I'm financing the operations, with my own sacrifice. So, you get to do what you love. Yeah. If you're by yourself, but when you have all of those other people and things, when you grow, it's not like that. If you can continue to do that, man, you're on the right track. That's wonderful. And it's not work. I enjoy what I do. And this is the reason I'm doing this, because I do enjoy it. I like making the videos. I like doing the podcast, but I like helping people. I really enjoy that. So I thought, man, I'm in a point in my life where I can do that. I'm still practicing. I still, we have full accounts and clients and all that. So I'm having to carve out time to do this. And I don't mind, because I enjoy helping people. I had a lady that called me the other day, a client, and she said she's older, and she just has no grasp of technology in any form. And I started getting impatient with her on the phone, because I'll get another call from her, but we've addressed what she needs to do. And now she'll wait 2 or 3 weeks, and she'll call me again at 5:30 in the evening. And we have to regurgitate the exact same thing. But just take a deep breath and realize that that's a relationship. That's someone's mother. So bite my tongue. I try to be as patient as I can, calm, and I do. And at the very end, she thanks me for being so patient with her. And you just have to put yourself in their shoes. Not everything is about $1. There's no way I'll make any money on the amount that I billed her versus the time that I spent with her. Not going to happen. Sometimes it's just not about that. It's just not. So foster those relationships, and you will get to do what you love every day. But just realize you've got to constantly work at that, or you're going to find yourself being something else entirely. So just be careful with that. And, your friends and your family will understand. No, they don't. They don't. They think you own your own business. You're free. You can just take off when you want. You've got that flexibility. They don't have a clue what goes into it, I don't think. unless they've done it themselves. They don't realize that by the time you do what you're doing, you got another 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day thinking about how to do it better, studying, reading, watching YouTube videos, whatever it may be. Then you've got the pressure that doesn't go away, deadlines, who's coming tomorrow, what do I have to do to prep for that, and all of that. So, your friends and family won't understand. They don't understand the time it will take and the toll it will take on you. But you've got to remember to foster your relationships, business and personal. Keep yourself from ruining a part of your life by so enthusiastically trying to improve. I tell my kids, and I don't miss anything of theirs. I'm not going to. I'm fortunate that way. And my employees, family comes first, period. I don't care what it is. We'll work around it. And the lady I described to you taught me that lesson. But going back to that, don't neglect your family and your friends just to make money, to make your family in a better position. Does that make sense? That sounded kind of, you're working so hard to put your family in a better position that you lose your family, or you're distant, or you feel like strangers. Don't do that. Money's not worth it. Business is not worth it. What's going to happen 20 years from now is not worth it. You're not going to get that time back. You're not, I'll tell you a story, and it tugged at my wife's heart, and it still tugs at mine, but we saw something one day, and I happened, she was in bed. I was walking by where she was watching something on TV, on YouTube. I don't remember what it was, but whoever it was said, your day today was full of first lasts. First lasts. It may have been the last time that you picked your toddler up and carried them to bed. Maybe the last time that you read them a bedtime story. It may be the last time that your daughter jumps up in bed and wants to sleep with you. So we've always had this thing. I'm like, hey, if our kids want to curl up next to us and sleep, let them. I don't care how big they get. I don't care if they're 40. My son, to this day, 21 years old, he'll hug my neck, tell me he loves me, pick me up, kiss me on the cheek. Just, he's an affectionate kid, and I'm so happy because we had this deal. Never going to ever not tell your dad you love him or not give him a hug and not be affectionate. It's okay because I wasn't with my dad, but that's another story. But keep your family close. No matter how hard you have to work to do it. Just do that. Another misconception. What is this? Growth brings freedom. It does. Scale brings freedom, but, it's not. Growth doesn't necessarily bring freedom. You have to work for it. When you grow, you've got more decisions, more responsibility, more things to break, more people to manage, just like we've talked about. Those things there are big misconceptions. But if you're, approaching entrepreneurship, you've been researching it, you already know that. And honestly, I wouldn't trade what I've done for anything. Upon graduation, I had two different paths. I could have gone to work for a large firm, large regional. I could have went to work for a national firm, but I knew instantly that I didn't want to do that. I'd already known enough people to be churned in by those large accounting firms, so I wasn't going that route. The next route was a larger regional firm. I thought, that's pretty cool. I was in Houston. They had a Colorado office, I think a New Mexico office. And I actually took a job. I interviewed. got hired, gave my notice, and that's when the firm owner said, "Hey, wait a minute. I think you should buy this firm." And we talked about it. So that's what I did. And I wouldn't change it for anything. There were a lot of struggles, but it gave me the time and it gave me some freedom. I had to work at it, but those things will be possible for you too in your business. But just realize that you're going to have to struggle and you're going to have to work at it. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. But, well, I don't want to leave on a bad note. It's Friday. It's Friday before Thanksgiving. It's going to be a good holiday. Go home, hug your family, start building those relationships and start focusing just on one thing a day. People like to do business with people they like. Just remember that. So focus on that every day. Just say something nice. If it's on social media, great. If it's in public, great. Whatever. Just do one thing per day that's kind. Do that. You'll be successful in business. You'll be successful in life. And you'll be happy. Don't be one of those negative people. All right. Thank you. I appreciate you listening, and I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next time.